Fighting is meanwhile continuing in Ukraine. It's now reached its 12th day. These are today's developments. Russia's defence ministry says humanitarian corridors are open to allow residents to escape from Kyiv, Mariupol and Sumy, as well as Kharkiv. This is after 2 failed attempts to allow civilians to leave Mariupol. Russia has only offered civilians in certain parts of Ukraine the chance to flee to Belarus or Russia, something Ukraine described as immoral. Despite this, Ukraine claims Russia has continued its attacks, with shelling preventing evacuation of civilians. Ukrainian and Russian officials are holding a third round of peace talks in Belarus. This report from Tom Clark.
This is the outskirts of Mykolaiv in southern Ukraine, the latest city to experience a Russian artillery bombardment.
They're hitting Balabanovka, hitting residential homes, shooting.
And among the apartment blocks where the shells land, horror and desperation to share with the world what is happening.
Let's show everyone. All the windows are blown off, and the doors as well.
Their situation becoming ever more desperate, Ukraine's President Zelensky renewed his calls for tougher sanctions against Russia.
If somebody loses their mind, we have to lose fear and forget about commerce. We need to defend ourselves. Both countries and companies must take a moral stand and fight against an inhumane force which wants to destroy humanity itself.
Flanked by Canadian and Dutch leaders in London, Boris Johnson announced an additional £175 million of UK aid for Ukraine.
After 12 days, it's already clear that Putin has made a miscalculation. He has underestimated the Ukrainians, their heroic resistance. He's underestimated their leader. And he has underestimated the unity of the West. And we will continue as colleagues to do everything we can to strengthen that unity in the days ahead to ensure that Putin fails in this catastrophic invasion of Ukraine.
The US held talks with NATO ally Lithuania. No update on the threat of a ban on Russian oil imports, but a claim sanctions are working.
They are having a dramatic impact already. We see the ruble going through the floor. We see Russia's credit rating coming basically to zero, to junk status, as we would call it. We see its stock market shut down. We see an exodus of virtually every leading company from Russia. All of those things are happening. They're happening in real time.
There are explosions in the distance during a day of supposed ceasefire to allow civilians to escape Kyiv and 3 other cities. Those too young to understand or too old to help themselves are picking their way past the destroyed overpass in Irpin on the outskirts of the capital, along with others already exhausted by this 12-day-old war.
This pin pulls off.
Outside Kyiv, its defenders continue to prepare for the long-awaited Russian advance, but they're no longer just Ukrainians.
Fighting for democracy, because democracy is precious and one man shouldn't decide that another country shouldn't have it.
Ukrainian officials have arrived in Belarus for a third round of ceasefire talks with Russia. But Vladimir Putin has vowed he will take Ukraine via talks or war, so hopes for progress are slim. Tom Clark, Sky News.